Rain always smelled different on Earth. At least that's what Lyra had been told. She had no memories of her home world, only flashes of violet-white light and the sharp sound of cracking glass escape pods. Voices shouting, something falling apart. She had been found drifting at the edge of the Terran frontier, a baby wrapped in metallic cloth and trembling in a pod barely big enough to hold her. Now she was 10. 10 years of Earth time. 10 years of being the only purple-skinned child in the adoption center. 10 years of hearing whispers. She looks scary. What if she's dangerous? Aliens shouldn't be raised with human kids. Someone else will take her. Not us. But no one ever did. And today, standing in the narrow alley behind the center, after yet another meeting with prospective parents who walked out whispering apologies, she cried silently into the side of the armored officer assigned to escort her back inside. Officer, he simply rested a gloved hand on her shoulder while she clutched her half-eaten bread roll and battered doll. He had been her security handler for the last 2 months, but he had never treated her like a job. Lyra, he said softly, kneeling so they were eye level. I'm sorry that didn't go the way you hoped. Her lower lip trembled. Her lavender eyes glimmered with tears. Nobody wants to adopt me, she whispered. They look at me and see a monster. Marcus shook his head firmly. I don't see a monster. You're just saying that. Oh, I'm not. I didn't look away from her, even as she wiped her tears on the sleeve of her worn dress. The alley was quiet, warm air humming from the pipes along the brick building. The world went on around them, cars, people, noise. But in that moment, it was just them, maybe Lyra whispered. I'm supposed to be alone. Marcus's jaw tightened in a way she had learned meant he was angry and ever at her, but at the situation. At the adults who walked away. At the system that categorized her not as a child, but as a potential risk. Listen, he said carefully. Being different doesn't make you unlovable. She clung to his vest wordlessly. Marcus exhaled slowly. He had tried for weeks to stay professional, to remind himself that he was simply assigned to protect the alien girl until a family chose her, to keep emotional distance. But every time she held his hand, or offered him part of her snack even when she had little, or whispered thank you. Officer Hale, after he carried her to bed on nights she couldn't sleep, it became harder. Lyra, he said, voice low. Can I tell you something? She nodded timidly. You're brave, kind, and stronger than most soldiers I've met. Any family would be lucky to have you. Then why doesn't anyone want me? His heart tightened. Because people fear what they don't understand. Lyra looked down at her glowing purple fingers. I don't understand me either. It broke him a little. He stood, offering her his hand. Come on, let's get you inside. But she didn't take his hand. Instead, she looked up at him with a trembling, hopeful expression, the kind of fragile hope that could be shattered with a single careless word. Officer Marcus. Yes. If you were a dad? She swallowed. Would you want a kid like me? Marcus froze. For years, he'd avoided the idea of parenting. Soldiers didn't make stable fathers. His life was unpredictable, dangerous. He traveled constantly. He had no partner, no family nearby, no real home besides a permanent room in the barracks. But as he looked at the girl clinging to a doll almost as battered as she was, as he looked at her fear, her hope, her loneliness, a thought bloomed quietly inside him. I already care about her like she's mine, Lyra. Lee, he said slowly, kneeling once more. Look at me. Her wide eyes flicked up. If I were a dad, he said, choosing every word carefully, a kid like you is exactly who I'd want. She blinked. Really? Yes, he said with a soft smile. Really? She burst into tears, not of pain this time, but relief, fear, longing, and something fragile. Something new. Marcus gently wiped her cheeks. Come here. She threw her arms around his neck, the half-eaten bread roll squished between them, but he didn't care. He held her just as tightly. After a long moment, Lyra whispered into his vest, but you can't adopt me. You're a soldier. He pulled back just enough to meet her eye. Soldiers can be parents too, but you don't have a house. I can get one. You don't have a wife. Marcus smiled faintly. Families come in all shapes, kiddo. She hesitated. You'd need to do paperwork. He laughed softly. You think paperwork scares me? I've fought alien warlords. Her little brows pulled together. I'm an alien. He booped her nose gently. You're my favorite one. She giggled, wet lie. And in that moment, Marcus made the decision that had been growing inside him for weeks. I can't promise it'll be easy, he admitted. There will be tests, interviews, approvals, and it might take time. But if you want, I'd like to try. Her breath caught. Try what? To adopt you. The world seemed to freeze around her. Even the distant hum of traffic felt quiet. Then you want me? She whispered, Yes, Lyra, I want you. She clutched his vest with tiny, trembling hands, pressing her face into his shoulder as she cried again,
No.
body shaking with release. Marcus didn't rush her. He simply held her, kept her safe, and let her feel what she'd been denied for so long. When she finally calmed enough to speak, her voice was small but sure. I want you to be my family. He swallowed hard. Then I will be. Lifted her gently, settling her on his hip. She dropped her doll once, panicked, and he bent to pick it up for her. The little suitcase she carried, patched with worn stickers, swung lightly as he hooked a finger through the handle. You ready to go back inside? He asked. She nodded, wiping her eyes. But can you stay with me tonight? Of course, until I fall asleep. Longer if you want. For forever? Marcus paused, then smiled warmly. For as long as you'll have me. Her tiny smile bloomed like sunrise. As they stepped out of the alley, sunlight spilled across them. People on the street cast curious glances at the purple-skinned girl with white hair and the armored human carrying her.
Oh.
But for the first time, Lyra didn't shrink away. She wasn't alone. She would never be alone again. 3 months. Later, Marcus struggled with the tie he was trying and failing to put on. Lyra watched from the couch, legs swinging, clutching her newly repaired doll. You looked funny, she announced. He grunted. It's the tie. It's winning. She hopped off the couch and approached him seriously. I saw videos. I can help. He raised an eyebrow. You know how to tie a tie? No, she said brightly, but I can make it worse. He laughed loudly, the kind of laugh his squad mates hadn't heard from him in years. He knelt so she could reach, and she looped the tie around his neck in a way that absolutely did not resemble any official knot. It looks perfect, he said solemnly. She grinned. Really? Really? A knock came at the door. Both froze. This is it, Marcus murmured. The final adoption interview. Lyra slipped her small hand into his. Her glowing purple fingers curled around his large human ones. Even if they say no. She whispered anxiously, Will you try again? He squeezed her hand. Lyra, they won't say no. How do you know? Because you're the best kid in the universe. She covered her cheeks, face going purple-pink. I'm not, you are to me. The door opened. 3 officials smiled warmly at them. Officer Hale, Lyra? We're pleased to inform you, Lyra held her breath. Your adoption request has been approved. Silence. Then a tiny squeak. Then Lyra launched herself at Marcus with enough force that he stumbled back, catching her in a crushing hug. I have a dad. She shrieked joyfully. He held her tightly. And I have a daughter. High humanity, at its best. On that day, an alien girl with purple skin and a broken past found a home, a family, a life, and Marcus' ordinary human soldier. Stubborn and steady proved once again that humanity's greatest power wasn't strength, or technology, or war. It was love, and love, in any universe, was the most human thing of all.